prospers when religion is vibrant and the rule of law under God is acknowledged.
An informed patriot is what we want.
Welcome to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. Muscular Christianity, where we relentlessly explore the intersection of truth and politics.
The trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so.
Now, here's your host, Brian Fisher.
Hi, and welcome back to this Thursday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. You're listening to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. Great to have you in the conversation. And speaking of muscular Christianity, there's been an all-out war on men in our culture over the last 40 years. Great piece on Fox News by Suzanne Vinker, who's done some great work. She's actually got a website entitled Women for Men. These are women who appreciate men. They appreciate the contributions that men have made to our culture. So guys, this little segment is specifically for you. Here is a woman, Suzanne Vinker, happily married woman, who believes in the contributions that men have made and continue to make to society. And she says this: America must revisit its distorted view of gender equality, implored Camille Paglia. She's quoting from a piece by a feminist, Camille Paglia. I walked you through this piece a week or two ago. And she says, Paglia exhorting people to be fair to the other half of the human race, basically admitting, look, our culture, feminists have not been fair to men. They've unfairly demonized men as one half of the human race. Here's what Paglia said: men's success in fields such as medicine, engineering, and technology have done more to liberate women from the constraints of their former lives than a busload of feminists could ever hope to do. So, and Vinker goes on to talk about this, talking about the inventions, the ingenuity of men, and how invariably their inventions, their creations, their innovations have made life better and easier for women and have liberated them from some of the constraints that they otherwise would know. Now, here's what Paglia says, and this goes back to this complementary business we were talking about in the last hour. History must be seen clearly and fairly. Obstructive traditions arose not from men's hatred or enslavement of women, but from the natural division of labor that had developed over thousands of years during the agrarian period, and that once immensely benefited and protected women, permitting them to remain at the hearth to care for helpless infants and children. In other words, men had the physical strength and the stamina to be out working in the fields. This freed women up to give their attention to their children and to their home. That was good for women. They didn't have to be outside toiling under the hot sun. Over the past century, it was labor-saving appliances invented by men and spread by capitalism that liberated women from daily drudgery. In other words, her point is that men are the best friends that women have ever had. The life of woman without man would be a life of drudgery and dreariness. And capitalism is the biggest friend of women because it is capitalism that has freed them up from some of the constraints they otherwise would know. And here's what Suzanne Vinker says: men's success in fields such as medicine, engineering, and technology have done more to liberate women from the constraints of their former lives than a busload of feminists. In almost every era, it was a male invention that provided women with the means to an easier life. In the 1940s, men invented the washing machine. In the 1990s, they invented the internet. Men invented electric lighting. Men invented the sewing machine. Men invented the frozen food process. Men invented the automobile. All of these things were liberating for women. It was their ingenuity and hard work that provided women, mothers in particular, with what they've always craved, and that is more time. And Suzanne Vinker says, look, if men were born Neanderthals, because that's how the feminists want the world to think of men, we're just a bunch of Cro-Magnon Neanderthals running around with a club in her hand looking to beat a woman over the head and drag her into a cave somewhere. But she says this, if men are born Neanderthals, as the culture suggests, why would they create products that ease women's burdens? Only those who carry a grudge as a result of personal biases would ignore this fact and instead blame society for their role. So this is a very, very good piece, basically saying, look, men almost seem devoted to the task of developing labor-saving devices that benefit whom? That benefit women, that make their life less of a drudgery, that save labor and save time so they've got energy to devote to other interests. Women must accept, Vinker says, that what they've been taught by the culture just isn't true. They will never be content until they do. So take heart, men. There are at least some women out there that recognize the contributions that men indeed have made to not only the lives of culture, but to the lives of women. Number to call is 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Rob, let's grab clip number 1. We're going to play some clips on this side of the break and then on the other side of the break dealing with this whole brouhaha over Robert Gates' book on President Obama. And it's created a huge problem because Robert Gates, there was a scathing criticism of Barack Obama and his leadership. Now, I want you to listen to this clip by Jay Carney with this background. Remember that Robert Gates said, look, I never said anything about this at the time. I didn't utter a peep. I never said anything to Barack Obama about how I felt what he was doing. I never said anything to Hillary Clinton about what I felt she was doing. I never said anything to Congress. Basically, he admitted when I went up to Congress, I lied through my teeth. I didn't tell them what I really thought. I told them what I thought I was expected to say. I haven't said this stuff until right now, until 2014, when my book comes out. Now, here is Jay Carney's explanation for why Barack Obama picked Robert Gates.
So when it comes to the internal interagency process, the president expects it to be robust. And he expects to hear competing points of view from every member of his national security team. A lot of you wrote about or talked about at the time that the president picked a team of rivals. And when you pick a team of rivals, you do so in part because you expect competing points of view and competing opinions. And that's very much what the president expects in foreign policy and domestic policy, and that's what he gets. And he's grateful for it.
Now, the problem with that is that Robert Gates never offered competing opinions or competing points of view. He never did. He made it clear that he kept his opinions to himself. He didn't tell Congress what he thought, didn't tell Barack Obama what he thought. Now, here is Ralph Peters, clip number 2. Let's wedge this one in. Ralph Peters, former member of the military, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, been a guest on this program before. He analyzes what we learn about President Obama from Bob Gates' book.
If our president sent our troops, tripled down in Afghanistan, and never believed in the mission, never believed it could work, but for the last 5 years has allowed our soldiers and Marines and Navy corpsmen to be killed or maimed in a war the president doesn't believe makes sense or that he doesn't believe he can win, that is as low as any president in our history has gone.
That's a kind of an amazing indictment, and you know, people were saying the same thing yesterday. Even Charles Krauthammer was saying, look, this is sort of the most damning indictment of a president that you can imagine, that he sent men and women to die for the United States when he did not believe in their mission. So it's as low as any president in history has gone. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.